Stephen Dodge, founder and CEO of the Slate Project. But Stephen, before we talk about the Slate Project and how you founded the Slate Project, talk about your personal story about your journey in recovery and how drugs affected you and how you got help and turned your life around.
Sure. All right. Well, first of all, Howie, thank you for having me on the show. It's always an honor to do service in a community-based way, especially being today's Overdose Awareness Day. It means a lot to me. So, yeah, my name's Stephen Dodge. I'm the founder of the Slate Project, also an addict in recovery. So I'm going to give you the short version, basically, of my history. But, you know, I grew up a normal kid, you know, two loving parents. Everything was great. Got whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted it. Really middle child, oldest boy, mama's boy, all that stuff, you know. And really nothing from my childhood I can say was the reason for why I drank and drugged the way I did. You know, it was just a coping mechanism that I picked up along the way. And being that I'm an addict and alcoholic, when I put one of anything in my body, I have something called the phenomenon of craving, and I can't control how much I put in, where I go, what I end up doing. All that stuff goes out the window as soon as I start. So that's what qualifies me as an alcoholic. Not my childhood, not my parents, not my town, not anything except for the effect that alcohol and drugs have on my body. And it was hard for me to accept that. First of all, I didn't know that. You know, I didn't know that my body was wired differently than the average temperate drinker. You know, I thought when you drink, you black out. That's what happens. And that was my truth. So, you know, I started off drinking with, you know, a large group of people. The people I chose to associate myself with were the people that were drinking and drugging like me. So it seemed normal. You know, it seemed like everybody was doing this. But I was the one that, you know, at first I was drinking to fit in, but I wasn't fitting in because of the way I was drinking. You know, like I was the one that was throwing up in the toilet, getting Sharpie drawn on his face, getting videotaped. That was me every time. And I never understood why my friends could drink 2 beers and go home, and if I drank 2 beers, you couldn't even find me. You know, like how come I was the kid at 11 in the morning at the handball courts against the fence drinking a 40 ounce when my friends were playing handball, right? Like how come I was different? I never really understood it. And, you know, it got to a point where I started drinking, then I started smoking weed, and I broke my hand when I got into high school, and I got prescribed Vicodin for my first time. And I didn't know what Vicodin was. The doctor said if your hand hurts, take 2 and your hand won't hurt. So my hand hurt and I took 2. I've always hated following directions, so I took a 3rd one. And then I smoked weed after school, and the combination of those 2 substances put me at a place of like ease and comfort that I had never felt before in my life, you know? It was like, I felt like complete. And obviously I wanted to feel complete, you know, so I wanted to feel that way from then on. And I started taking them on a daily basis, and this was before iStop was implemented, so I was able to doctor shop, and I went to a lot of different doctors. I had a lot of prescriptions, and by the time I graduated high school, I was full-blown physically addicted to opiates. I had no idea. You know, the thing about the opiates, it's not just a mental addiction. There's also a physical dependency component to it. So the more I take, the more I need to take to get that desired euphoric effect. And then when I don't take them, I start going through withdrawals, and I started to feel sick and uneasy and irritable and restless and sweating and all that stuff. And the only way to subside it was to take another pill. So I got caught in this vicious cycle of addiction, and you know, it got to the point where I didn't even know. And Vicodin went to Oxycontin. Oxycontin went to heroin. It was just like that. It was a slow progression because I used opiates for 9 years, but it was very simple. You know, there was no thought process. Should I do oxy? Should I do heroin? It was just the next right thing in my mind to do. You know, it was more readily available. It was cheaper. It was easier to do. All this stuff made sense to me. This is like my brain was hijacked from drugs. I was totally thinking irrationally, acting irrationally, speaking irrationally. Everything was irrational about me, and it was because I was always under the influence of substances. And you know, my ongoing heroin use led me to places that I never should have been, places nobody ever should go, with people no one ever should be with, doing things no one should ever do, and my life was completely consumed. I woke up to get high. I lived to get high. That was it. And one day it was very similar to the day before. I got money the same way. I got drugs from the same drug dealer. I used the same. Everything was the same, except I hit this emotional wall, and I said, I can't live like this anymore. For me, not for my mom, so I tried that. Not for anybody. I can't live like this anymore for me. And when I got to that point of willingness, I had just a very little bit of willingness. That's all I needed to get my start. And I said, I need help. And I called a hotline, and I got accepted into a treatment program, and I went to rehab, and I started to learn things about addiction and about the disease and about me, and I started getting all these tools and self-knowledge. And self-knowledge is great, but it's not the answer, because if it was the answer, I would go to rehab and be cured and everything would be fine. So I came home and I got involved in a 12-step fellowship, and I started completely devoting my life to this 12-step fellowship, right? Because the way I chased my high, I started chasing my recovery. I have to do this on a daily basis. I'm not staying sober off the stuff I did yesterday. I'm not even staying sober off the stuff I did this morning. It's what am I constantly doing on a daily basis for growth in myself and to impact another individual's life. And that's where I'm at today, and that's where I continue to go, and that's how I continue to grow, and then recovery continues to grow. And that's basically been the short version of my journey thus far in my life. And I've had great opportunities since then. So
that's a very moving story. And talk about the Slate Project. What gave you the motivation to start it, and what does the Slate Project? What's its goal to accomplish?
Sure. So the Slate Project, it's a not-for-profit organization. It's an acronym, so it stands for Saving Lives from Addiction Through Treatment and Education. So we're 501c3 approved, so we're tax-exempt, not-for-profit. And the way it really started is, it's actually funny. I had just this weird, urn in my body to go. I literally just walked into my high school. And I said, I want to talk to the kids, because this is what we do. We do education, prevention, awareness, to help guide the youth from going down the path that I went down, because you don't have to go down that way. A lot of people do, but it's not. I didn't know that I didn't have to. I was just one foot after the other. And so I went in to ask if I could talk to the kids, and they allowed me to do so, and it was wildly successful. I got a lot of positive feedback from the kids, from the teachers, from the faculty, from everybody. And they invited me back the next year, and then they referred me to another organization. I spoke, and I continued to get these speaking commitments. And I remember sitting in my room saying, this could be something a lot greater than me just, taking commitments as they go, And so I decided to start the Slate Project, and basically our goal is to raise awareness. So we have a few fronts. So we raise awareness through prevention strategies and all that with the youth of the communities, and we raise money for addicts in need. So now I have those two fronts. So I'm working on the forefront with the youth, and then the money I'm raising gets pumped back into the community to help the addict who's already past the prevention point. Because I know this has to come from all angles. It can't just be prevention. It can't just be arrest. It can't just be this, that, this. It has to come from everybody in every direction. So I wanted to help the largest variety of people that I could. So where the money goes, it's whether it's paying for air flight to treatment, helping with any financial burden one may find to get into treatment, because I know that's a big issue, and getting materials for sober housing or for other organizations that may need the help on a financial level. That's what the money's all there for, and that's where it all started. And since then, it's continued to grow. I've gotten a lot of speaking commitments. I've helped a lot of people. I've spoken at a lot of schools. I'm continuing to make it grow, because I don't want it to stop. So my next goal is I want to start sober housing, and start all these other things that I can just continue to be a presence in my community, show people that recovery is real, recovery is possible, and that there's a way out if that's where you're going. And then from there, I've made relationships with with treatment facilities just from doing what I've been doing, and I've been able to aid people into getting into treatment because that was an unanticipated front. People just started messaging me, hey, my son's struggling, can you help him? Hey, my husband, hey, this. And I said, yeah, of course. So now I have all these avenues where I can, if someone reaches out to me, I can get them placed into a facility that will best meet their needs. And that's been one of the most rewarding things. Besides seeing families reunited, that's one of my favorite things that I've come across in this process.
Absolutely, and one idea I have that just popped into my head is that Rocco and I are going to be running the entertainment, the Long Beach Sharks, a junior hockey team, and there's going to be a lot of young kids at those games. And we had a horrible tragedy in Long Beach about 5-6 weeks ago that a 23-year-old young man who you know, Sam Mignoli, was a goalie, was a mentor to the youth, died of a drug overdose. So I think it would be great to get you to some of the games and talk to the kids at the games, because to me, awareness has to be out there, constantly getting the message out there. So I think that'd be great.
I would love to do that. And if we're not creating conversation, raising awareness, making people just like open their eyes and stop saying it's not in my backyard anymore, then that's when actually things can start to happen.
Absolutely. And now what I'm